Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm just so excited to be in your earbuds as always. And once again, my dog Tarkin is laying on the floor right next to me and has decided to groan for the first time in the past 2 hours. As soon as I hit record. So, that might be happening throughout this episode, but what can you do? It's just life, right? So today I'm super excited about this episode, and I think it's going to be one that is very actionable, very helpful for you. So this is an episode that I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and go grab a pen or a paper or get out the notes app on your phone or something like that, because I'm going to be dishing up all of the tips for how you can overcome poster's block, my friend. This is very similar to writer's block. However, I like to call it poster's block because often, actually something that I've learned from my Feel Good Social Clubbers, this has been a very hot topic in the Feel Good Social Club, which is why I was inspired to create this episode today. But when it comes to social media, I don't like saying writer's block because yes, a lot of us struggle with the caption writing. For a lot of us, caption writing is the hardest part of the social media post, right? But there is also the opposite side of the social media posting coin, which is the visuals. And sometimes feeling like we need to find that balance behind the visuals and then the caption to match it. And then how do we make them work together and then finally post it? This all works together to contribute to poster's block, right? So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing my favorite tips for overcoming that feeling of you're sitting down at your computer or you're whipping out your cell phone and you're getting ready to post on social media and all of a sudden your mind goes blank. And you're just like staring at that little chirping, what's it called? Cursor. And it's just like staring at you, like mocking you, like, why don't you write with me, right? Or maybe you whip out your phone and you're just like, I don't have any good visuals to post right now. Like, what the heck should I even create? What visual should I choose? What caption should I write? All that stuff. Basically, we're going to be talking about anytime you're feeling stuck when it comes to posting on social media. It's a real thing. We all deal with it from time to time. And so today I'm going to be sharing my best tips for how you can overcome it and sharing a few actionable ideas for what you can do next time that feeling hits you, my friend. So before we dive in, I do want to remind you, if you enjoy the Feel Good Social podcast, if you really find this episode actionable and helpful for you, I would love to encourage you to go ahead and share it with one of your biz buddies who could also use to hear it. And if you want to, share this episode to your Instagram stories, screenshot it, and then make sure that you tag me. I'm at Feel Good Social, because if you tag me, I'll be able to see it. I'll be able to reshare it. I'll be able to give you a follow, all the things. I would love to hear from you. I would love to reshare your Instagram story. So make sure you do that, especially if you love this episode. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into how you can overcome the dreaded poster's block. Hey, friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. All right, my friends. So really quickly, once again, to touch on what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to poster's block. It's basically a lot like writer's block. It's basically when you go to post on social media and you're like, what the heck should I post today? And you're just staring at that blinking cursor and you're like feeling stuck. Or maybe you're trying to force a caption or force a visual and it just doesn't feel like it's working, right? And you're like, I sound dumb, or just like, ooh, I don't feel like myself, or like it's like pulling teeth to try to write this post right now. Or maybe even you end up like writing a whole post, but then you reread it and you're like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to post this. This is poster's block, that feeling of stuckness when it comes to posting on social media, especially for your brand because of all the added pressure and all that stuff. So I'm going to be sharing my favorite tips for how to overcome this. And I am going to be talking fast, like I said in the intro. I was typing up my notes for this, and it's so funny. I think I mentioned this in the intro as well. This topic is actually inspired by my Feel Good Social Clubbers. My gal, Shaylee King, she's at Shaylee King Photos on Instagram. Go check her out. She's wonderful. But she posted in the Feel Good Social Club's community forums saying just like, I'm feeling stuck writing content. You know, I'm trying to think about all of my content pillars. I'm trying to do all this stuff, but it just doesn't feel like it's coming. I feel like what I'm writing, I don't feel enthusiastic about. It feels kind of forced and fake and all these different things. And so in the club, we had tons and tons of members commenting on the post to give their thoughts, their experiences with poster's block, their ways of overcoming it as well. And I also shared my thoughts too. So today's episode is going to be an accumulation of all of this knowledge and all of these suggestions for how to overcome poster's block. So I have a lot to say. Long story short, I'm going to try to be talking fast. Once again, get out your pen and paper if this is something that you struggle with. I'm going to be asking actionable questions and giving you action steps for what you can do to try to boost your inspiration and all that stuff, right? So definitely do that. But I just had to give a shout out to my gal, Shaylee, because she's super cool and she posed this question. And I'm probably going to be giving shout outs to my other members as well throughout this episode in the Feel Good Social Club because they just gave such great advice. And I love what ideas this topic generated, right? Okay, my friend. So when it comes to poster's block, if you're ever feeling stuck, my very first piece of advice is always mapping out the bigger picture first and then slowly zooming in and giving yourself guidelines, direction for what to post about, and then prompts for yourself, right? Because it's so much more overwhelming to just sit down at your computer or whip out your cell phone and try to create posts in the moment. It can be overwhelming, it can be frustrating, and it can waste your precious time, right? This is like one of the backbone things that I talk about for Feel Good Social is batch planning your content, mapping your whole big picture month out strategically to give yourself strategic direction, make sure that all of your posts are working together, all those different things. Not only does this help to boost your strategy, not only does this help to not waste your precious time, to save your precious time, right? When it comes to posting on social media, but also this helps you to generate ideas and give yourself direction so that you don't need to be just like staring at that chirping, blinking cursor every day. That sucks. It's like mocking you. That's how I always feel about the blinking cursor when it feels like pulling teeth to try to generate an idea. I'm like, what the heck should I talk about right now, right? So, mapping out your month, looking at the whole big picture. What am I promoting this month? What do I want to talk about in general, themes wise this month? And then slowly zooming in and being like, okay, week 1, this is going to be the theme. I need to create these types of posts. Here are 3 different types of ways I can talk about this theme in my posts, in the topics and types of content and all this different stuff, right? And I give myself big picture month direction and slowly zoom in before I actually sit down and create each individual social media post. Whereas like I'm choosing the visual and I'm typing up the caption and all that different stuff, right? This just really helps me to give myself more organization and guidelines in my strategically, logically focused brain, right? So I find that this helps so freaking much when it comes to the dreaded question, what the heck should I be posting today, right? And so instead of going into detail about this process, I actually already created several episodes about kind of batch planning content and all that different stuff. But our most recent episode is episode 104. I fully outline the process that I actually take my Feel Good Social Clubbers through every month. Every month we have content planning workshops where we all come together at the beginning of the month and we just talk about our strategies for the upcoming month. Like, what the heck do we want to talk about? What kind of posts can we create? We brainstorm ideas. We give ourselves guidelines and outline, map out our full months at a time, right? This is something that I offer to my Feel Good Social Clubbers. We do it every month. It is so much fun and so helpful. Seriously, so actionable and helpful for overcoming poster's block every month, right? So definitely go back and listen to episode 104 if you have not yet. Also, in past episodes, if you see any episodes that are titled batching content, batch planning, content pillars can be super, super helpful for this process. Any of those episodes will be super helpful for you. But definitely, first thing on the list, episode 104 is where I outline this monthly mapping process every month. Okay. By the way, if you're interested in the Feel Good Social Club at all, you can always join the club. At this point, it is always open. You are always welcome to join as a member. So head to feelgoodsocial.com/club to check it out because we would love to see you in there. And I'd love to have you join our monthly mapping workshops. I have so much fun with our members in there and it is super helpful, right? But that is always going to be my first tip for overcoming posters block is really sit down and look at the big picture of your month and slowly zoom in and give yourself direction, guidelines, prompts, right? Because that's going to help you take like this swarming beehive of ideas and lay it out in a logical way that feels less overwhelming. But my second tip, if you do map out your month and you're still like, I feel overwhelmed, or maybe you are just getting into the process of posting again, right? Like often when someone hasn't been posting for a while, and honestly, this has been happening to Shaylee over time. I don't think that she would mind me mentioning this because it's something we talk about in the club. She's a Feel Good Social Clubber. I think it can be kind of overwhelming if you're just starting a business or if you're just trying to get back into the process of posting and showing up on social media again. It can kind of be overwhelming sometimes still to map out your entire month of content. And sometimes you just need to generate ideas and go with your inspiration and all that different stuff. Or even if you do map out your entire month and you're going to your individual posts and it's time to create your individual posts and you're like, okay, I gave myself these guidelines, but still, what the heck do I say? That's where this tip is going to come in. And so this is kind of a big general tip, but I'm going to break it down for you hardcore. Okay. But I have labeled this tip, follow your inspiration. Okay. Because this is what I have found to be the most helpful when it comes to creating social media content is to seriously just think about what post am I most excited to create? What part of the post should I start with that I'm best at, right? And follow your inspiration and allow yourself to kind of go outside the box and just go with where your creativity is flowing. Right? So sometimes, especially if you do map out your entire month of content, you then go down to create your individual social media post and you're like, thinking that you need to start at the beginning, right? But we do not necessarily need to create our social media posts in chronological order, especially if you're batch planning multiple posts at one time, right? So let's even think about this on a weekly basis. Say I want to post 3 times this week, right? And I gave myself guidelines of maybe, okay, posters block is our weekly theme, right? And I want to, one, share a story about a time I've experienced posters block and how I overcame that personal story, right? Maybe I want to share a kind of tips, educational post about 3 tips for overcoming posters block. And then maybe I want to share a customer testimonial of someone from the Feel Good Social Club saying that the monthly content planning workshops or our post prompts or our Canva templates help them to overcome posters block, right? So I've given myself these guidelines, but maybe, technically the first post on my list is the personal story about a time when I overcame posters block, right? But maybe I sit down and I'm like, this feels hard. Like I can't just think of it one time when I overcame posters block and all this different stuff. And it's just feeling hard to create that post. What if I don't create that post first? What if instead I decide to do the 3 tips post first because I've already thought of that. I've already given advice to my Feel Good Social Clubbers. I've already outlined the Feel Good Social podcast episode that has to do with this, right? And so that post feels the easiest to create, right? So maybe I start with that post, even though technically it's the second post on my list, right? It's okay to jump around. We don't have to create posts in chronological order is what I'm saying, my friend. And then maybe as I'm creating that post and typing up the caption for that post, all of a sudden inspiration strikes me for a time in my past when I had to implement one of those tips. And all of a sudden, I can create that personal story post about a time when I experienced posters block, right? Which I'm laughing right now because I totally had quote unquote posters block for this podcast episode, which is just hilarious. And this is probably going to lead into the next tip that I'm going to share with you, but I totally didn't know what to create this podcast episode about. And I was like, I have a few ideas, but none of them are feeling exciting or good to me, right? And all that different stuff. And then I actually went to my Feel Good Social community forums and I was like, what are my clubbers talking about? What questions are they asking? And I found this post from Shaylee and I was like, yes, this is such a great topic and I'm going to create a podcast episode around this, right? And from that idea, I generated so many different post ideas for Instagram surrounding poster block, right? I am going to, be sharing this in an email and I'm going to be doing all these different things, right? So that's my second tip actually when it comes to following your inspiration is one, just brain dump things that you have been excited about lately, right? Is what have you been excited about learning about lately or talking to people about? Also, how have you been feeling lately, right? Tapping into your emotions when it comes to your brand and business and processes and just your industry and all those different things. That can really generate ideas for posts that you can create on social media. And also what has been frustrating you lately. Okay. If there's anything in your industry or your business or processes or clients or people's beliefs, so that are related to your brand industry that have been frustrating you lately, that's another really great way to generate ideas for Instagram posts. Okay. And I really want you to focus on what is exciting you or what is frustrating you or what have you been feeling emotional around lately, because often that is the inspiration that we should follow that is going to generate the best content for your brand, right? Because like I said, when I was trying to think of an idea for this podcast episode, even I was thinking about, and I'll probably turn these into future episodes, but I'm thinking about, how to create content that's valuable for your customers, that your customers will actually pay attention to. That's probably going to be an episode in a couple of weeks. Let's be honest. I was thinking, I don't even remember. Oh, calls to actions. I want to create a podcast episode around that, right? That was another topic on my list. But ultimately, I was like, I don't feel like I want to talk about this right now. this topic doesn't light me up right now, right? So then I went to my Feel Good Social Club and I found a topic that a lot of people were talking about and generating ideas. I reread the advice that I gave Shaylee in the Feel Good Social Club, and it just like lit a fire in me. I was like, yes. And I already have like 3 reels created around this topic for next week when I post this podcast episode to help promote the podcast episode, right? Like it all works together. So following your inspiration can be so helpful. Okay. So start with the post that feels easiest, or start with what excites you or frustrates you the most. Another little, nugget that you can take out of that little story that I just shared too is to go to your ideal followers and see what questions they are asking you, or just think about your clients and like, what questions have your clients asked you recently that you were like, oh, I would love to answer that. I've actually used that for past podcast episodes too with my one-on-one coaching clients as well. When they ask me a question on Voxer and I go off on them for like 10 minutes, like, oh girl, let me tell you. And then I'm like, okay, this is going to be a podcast episode soon. So that is just like a way to follow your inspiration and generate ideas, right? Real quick, have I invited you to join the Feel Good Social Club yet? Oh man, my friend, I would love for you to check out our new monthly membership for down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are ready to create content with ease, actually show up and strategically market your business online every month, and also make friends with rad down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are just like you, who get it, who are in the posting trenches with you, and who are ever ready to give you a friendly air high five or kick in the accountability booty whenever you need it. The Feel Good Social Club is where it is at. Check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we have a content library full of Canva templates and tutorials and resources to help you make content creation as easy as possible. We also have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together and talk about the upcoming month's strategy for our content. And we also have community forums where you can get together, ask questions of other club members, brainstorm ideas, ask for feedback. So definitely check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Our Feel Good members are seriously some of the most amazing people that I have ever met. And I would love for you to join us, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to see you in there, my friend. All right, let's dive back into today's episode. Another part of following your inspiration in this tip is to understand, are you a visual starter or are you a caption starter? Or a mix of both, right? And by this, I mean, are you more prone to like choose your visual first and then write a caption based on your visual? Or are you more prone to write a caption first and then choose a visual to go with it? Okay. And you can be both. I would call myself a mix of both. Sometimes I start with a caption and I type the caption up. Sometimes I know what visual I want to create and then I try to generate a caption idea based on that visual, right? And so either way, it's okay. You can be only solo visual starter, or you can be solo caption starter. Actually, Shaylee is a solo visuals starter in the Feel Good Social Club. And then one of our other members, Lindsay, who actually has been on the podcast already. She's Lindsay at 4th Street Farm on Instagram. If you want to check her out, she is an amazing writer. She is an amazing storyteller. And so it was really fun to see their conversation in the club going back and forth, being like, well, I'm more of a visual person. And well, I could never start with the visual. I always have to start with the story, right? So either way, on either side of the equation, it's totally cool. Just understand where your inspiration starts, okay? And you can also be like me, right? Give yourself permission to sometimes be feeling the visual and also sometimes be feeling the caption, right? And I have to think about, and understand about myself, okay, do I really want to post this photo? How can I create a caption that relates to this photo that also relates with what I want to be talking about this week, right? That's a really great way to generate ideas. Or sometimes I know I have a caption, I have a topic about what I want to talk about. Then I have to go into my visuals bank and choose a visual that can pair with it and that looks good in my grid. If you're a weirdo like me and you like to make your grid look pretty. I don't think we're weird, but you don't have to make your grid look amazingly beautiful, and mine doesn't always. But When you understand, am I a visual starter or am I a caption starter? Does my inspiration trend more? Does it feel easier to start with a visual? Does it feel easier to start with a caption? Then that's what you start with, okay? Don't try to just force a caption if you don't know what the heck you want to talk about at all, right? That might mean that you're a visual starter and you can use the visual that you want to use as inspiration to generate a caption. Or, if you want to start with the caption because you know the exact topic and then choose a visual to pair with it, awesome. Just understand what that looks like for you. So when it comes to if you're a visual starter, I always like to say, if you want to create a graphic or if you want to create a photo, the Canva templates that we have inside the Feel Good Social Club, I tell my clubbers all the time, like, if you're looking for inspiration for what kind of post you want to create, what do I want to post about today? Don't just go to our post prompt library. We do have a post prompt library as well, and I'll tell you more about that in a sec. But our Canva template library that we have inside the club, like I have set up those templates to help you generate ideas for types of content that you can create for your brand, right? So if you're a visual starter and you want to create a graphic of some sort, go to Canva's own template library, or if you want to join the Feel Good Social Club and check out our Canva template library, like, you don't necessarily need to know what you want to talk about before you find a Canva template to create a graphic. Often you can allow the graphic to inspire the topic of the post, right? So that's something to think about. Now, if you are a visual person and you want to post a photo or a video, here's what I shared with Shaylee. Here is my process for how I start with a visual and then I find a caption to pair with it, right? So if I have a photo or a video that I know I want to post, here are some questions that I ask myself. And they're kind of in 3 different categories, right? So first, I start with the photo itself, right? Here's where you might want to write down these questions because they're very, very helpful to come back to. So I start with the photo itself. What is the story behind this photo? What happened that day? Did anything interesting or entertaining or inspirational happen? How was I feeling the day that this photo was taken? Did I learn anything the day that this photo was taken? Or can I simply tell the story to tell the story, right? Like, is there a story behind this photo that's just simply relatable for my ideal customers? And I can just tell the story behind the photo, right? So those are some questions I like to ask when it comes to the story behind the photo. Now, if the photo is from a very boring day and you don't want to tell like the story behind the photo or anything like that, then I ask this second group of questions, which have to do more with like making an analogy and proving a point that has to do with my business and brand and industry and ideal customers, right? So I ask myself, is there an analogy that I can make about this photo or the story behind the photo that can be related to my ideal customers, my industry, my brand, and or my values? Right. So can I do this with, I did this with a rock climbing, post that I was super proud of, right? I related me climbing this one route when I was rock climbing that felt hard for me, but then it just seemed to flow because all the holds were there and all that stuff. I related that to getting in the flow of creativity for my business or something like that. I don't know. But long story short, it was an analogy that I made and I posted a rock climbing photo and I told the story of rock climbing that day, but then I brought it back to the same feeling that I feel when I get into the flow when it comes to my creative process, right? For social media. And I shared like inspirational tips for how you can do this and how this applies to social media, right? So I used this analogy to share a relatable photo of me rock climbing and then relate it back to my brand and prove a point about my brand and industry to my ideal customers, right? So that is what I want to encourage you to do with your photo as well, is ask, like, can I make an analogy? Can I relate this to something that I've been learning about and or believe in? And then I said to Shaylee, it can also be a funny analogy, such as comparing the day I wore short shorts that were way too short for me and the lesson I learned from that to gaining confidence in making mistakes as I like grow my business as a photographer or something like that, right? So there's tons of different ways you can share a story and gain inspiration from your visuals. Another set of questions that I told Shaylee to ask as well, because she is a photographer, is can I turn this photo into a lesson that I learned related to my process and related to what I do and my industry and all those things, right? So can I turn this into a lesson about lighting and angles, or telling a story when it comes to brand photography? Because that's what Shaylee does, right? So look at your photo that you want to share and think, can this be turned into kind of like an objective outsider's viewpoint, like observing this photo? What is happening in this photo? Like, can I share tips that I learned when this photo was taken? Right. So depending on what industry you're in and what you do for your brand, this might look and sound different. It was really easy to give that advice to Shaylee. As a brand photographer, she can obviously objectively look at the photos that she shares on Instagram and share the things that she learned about lighting or why she took the photo at this angle and all that stuff. But I'm willing to bet that you can come up with something like that for your brand too, even if you're not a photographer, right? So just things to think about if you're looking to start with a visual. Okay. So then if you are a caption starter, my friend, because I definitely have been there as well, it's always a good idea to then start with the topic. Right? So give yourself a prompt of some sort. And again, these prompts might come from you mapping out the big picture of your month and then moving in and thinking about your weekly themes and thinking, okay, I want a personal story based on a poster's block and blah, blah, blah. How does that start? But sometimes when you are going down to actually write the caption, you're like, okay, I have this prompt. I need a personal story about posters block, but like, I don't know where to start, or I don't know what this is supposed to look like. Like my fingers cannot type words right now. It hurts. I have been there if you can't tell. So what I like to say is start with that prompt. Start with a question or story or topic, give yourself guidelines, and then go deeper, right? So ask yourself, what is the point that I'm trying to make with this story, right? Is there a theme? Is there a moral of the story? What is the ultimate point I'm trying to make in this caption related to my ideal customers? And that can help to really give my caption focus so I don't just feel like I'm just telling a story to tell a story, right? So that I know the point that I eventually want to try to make with the big picture of this story that I'm trying to type up. That's just a way to go deeper and give yourself even more meaning and more direction so it doesn't feel like you're just yapping without a purpose, right? Also, think about, how does this relate to my ideal customer? This is something that you always want to come back to when it comes to creating social media posts. Okay. We always want to be speaking to your ideal customer. We always want to be making it relate to them in some way or giving them some sort of value, which is actually probably going to be my podcast episode in 2 weeks, maybe like a few more weeks than that. But I will definitely create a future podcast episode about what value is and how to relate your content to your ideal customers. So be on the lookout for that. But when you have a prompt, it's like, okay, I'm going to be sharing this personal story about posters block. Okay. What's the point I'm trying to make? We all deal with posters block, but we can overcome it in some way. Here is my personal experience doing that. Right. But then how does it relate to my ideal customers? Well, a lot of my ideal customers struggle with this. What is a time and experience when they have struggled with this? How can I bring them into my personal story so that they put themselves in my shoes because they have been here before, right? And then also, how can I bring this back around to my brand? Think about that when it comes to creating your entire caption. You always want to make sure that you're kind of somehow relating this back to yourself as the head of your business or your brand and industry in some way as well, right? That's how it all ties together and we create the full picture caption. So the other things that you can think about are, how can I start off this caption in the best way, right? The beginning of the caption is always, it's called the hook. And it's what you want to be the most interesting, intriguing sentence of your caption, because it's what hooks the reader in and gets them to keep reading into the bulk of your caption. So sometimes just like brainstorming ideas, like what is a really great hook that I could start out with, right? And I should have probably thought of one for the posters block example that I've been going with. But I don't know. I mean, I did create a reel a couple of weeks ago and it was like, posters block sucks. I can help in the reel, right? And then I think that the hook for my caption was something like, I know what it's like to sit down at your computer every day and just stare at that blinking, chirping cursor. Blink, 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 or something like that, right? So like I started out kind of drawing people into the story, right? So brainstorm ways to start your caption. And often if you just get started, it's so much easier. And then also think about what you want your call to action to be at the end. Right? So this is another way to just go deeper into your prompt rather than just asking yourself a question. Okay, like what is the time, Kinsey, when you have experienced posters block? Tell the story. I hate prompts like that. A lot of people who you find like online and they're like, okay, 36 post prompts, like a freebie or something. And it's just 36 questions. And you're like, okay, like I get it, but it's really hard. Like, where do I go from there? Right? So this is how we go deeper with our prompts that we give ourselves. And this is actually what I do with the prompts in the Feel Good Social Club, my friend. We do have a post prompt library, but it's not your mother's post prompts. That's what I like to say. No, it's like, giving an overview of the topic. What's the point behind this prompt? How can you make this relate to your ideal customers? And also, what are some ideas for hooks to get you started? And I also share different ideas for call to actions to end it, right? Because this is helping you get started. And then this is helping you bring it home at the end of your caption. What is the next action step that I want people to take from this post? And when you have the beginning brainstormed and you have the end brainstormed, it's a whole lot easier to put the guts into the middle of your caption, right? So just a thought when it comes to if you are a caption starter, not just posing a question to yourself, going deeper into the prompt that you're giving yourself and brainstorming ideas and giving yourself as much of a clear picture viewpoint, clarity. What is this post about? And also ways to start it, ways to end it. It makes it so much easier, my friend. Okay. Okay. Oh man, deep breath in this podcast episode. I told you I was going to talk fast. And when that happens, I'll run out of breath. Okay. So first tip was map out your month, map out your big picture, then give yourself as many guidelines and directions, zooming in individual prompts as possible, right? Second tip, follow your inspiration. And I totally broke that down into a lot of different ways, right? But ultimately, the takeaway I want you to have is to just go with what inspires you and understand what is inspiring you and exciting you the most and allowing yourself to generate inspiration ideas based on that, allowing your creative juices to flow, right? So then the third tip that I have when it comes to posters block is to release the frickin' pressure and get out of your head. Okay. And I had to add this one because this was a big topic in the Feel Good Social Club in this post thread that I'm talking about, right? Shaylee, she understands this about herself. She does tend to like get into her head and she puts a lot of pressure on herself to show up on social media. And I'm so, so proud of her for beginning to overcome this. I have seen her like begin to show up more, begin to just like say, okay, just post it, Shay. Like, it's fine. It might not be like exactly nitty gritty perfect the way I want it to be, but I'm going to post it anyway because I already put so much time and effort into this post. And so I'm going to do it, right? She's been doing that more and more lately. And I'm so proud of her. And I get it because it is so, so real. The pressure that we put on ourselves to show up online in a perfect or shiny way is very, very difficult to overcome, right? And so actually, one of our other Feel Good Social Clubbers, Sam from All the Good Stuff, Vale Valley on Instagram, if you want to check her out, she actually brought this up too. She's like, believe me, I know what it's like to be getting in my head and feeling like I'm typing out a sentence and then I'm backspacing the sentence. And then I type up even 2 paragraphs. And then I'm like, well, this sucks. This is shitty. This isn't exactly how I want to come across, or it's not coming across exactly how I want it to come across and stuff like that. And she's like, the best way I've found to release the pressure is to just allow myself to type out what I'm excited about right now, right? Like if I'm feeling forced, forced into a box based on my monthly mapping promotional schedule, like my first tip was, right? Sometimes that can feel limiting, right? If you're putting a bunch of pressure on yourself, you're like, I need to write a post about poster's block, a personal story about poster's block, and it's just not coming to me, but like, you must do this, Kinsey. Like, that can be super limiting for me, and it can totally cut off my inspiration, my creativity, all that stuff, right? So get out of your head, release the pressure, release the expectations if you are really feeling stuck, and just start writing and go with your inspiration. And what I like to say is, firstly, just like allow yourself to write a freaking caption. Okay. And this is one of the hardest things to do if you are a self-editor like I am. Like, I find myself getting into this like stuck mode where I'm literally like editing every sentence, and like I'm stuck on one sentence for like 20 minutes because I can't get it to sound perfect. And it just wastes so much time for me. And then it usually ends up with me just being frustrated and not allowing to even create the whole caption or the whole post itself, right? So what I like to do is brainstorm ideas. I'll go with the first idea that I feel the most passionate about, that's the most exciting or frustrating or whatever to me right now. And then I force myself to just write the caption. Just write it, and I'll find myself doing the backspacing, doing the self-editing in the process. And I'll be like, Kins, just freaking keep going. Like, you just need to work past it. Like, if I need to put in all caps, like transition here or something like that, then do it, right? Like, sometimes I will do that. I'll be typing up the caption. I'm like, I know where I want to take this caption next, like in my story, but like I need some transition, and the transition sentence is not coming to me. So I'll put add transition here, all caps, move on, right? Keep writing the caption. And then when I'm done, I will go back and revise it. I'll actually probably walk away from that caption for like 30 minutes. You know what I mean? And then I'll come back to the caption when it's less like fresh and emotionally charged, and when I can look at it with a more objective viewpoint. And that is when I will revise it. That is when I'll take out all of the words that are unnecessary in my caption, and I will really tweak it, and I'll more easily be able to turn it into the caption that like I had in my head, right? But it's so frustrating to get the caption out of your head perfectly the first time and not like having that happen, right? So type up the caption, force yourself to just get something onto paper, step away from it for 30 minutes, come back to it with a more objective viewpoint, and you have clay to mold, right? Like, then you have something to work with, and you can see it more objectively, and you can turn it into the caption that you visualized in your head, instead of trying to make it perfect when it comes out the first time, right? So that is what I want to share with you today, my friend. Release the pressure, get out of your head. Sam said she really likes to just go with what excites her. That's what I like to do too. Another thought that I had for Shaylee, just because she is such a visual person, is to take a walk through the woods and just really, really pay attention to her senses, really pay attention to what's interesting, kind of observe the thoughts that go through her head, but don't put pressure on herself to really like think of something amazing on this walk. Like, no, just like go on a walk, enjoy life, get out of your head, do something that gets you out of your head. But in the meantime, when you get home from the walk, reflect back on the walk and think, oh, I had this crazy thought occur to me, like when I was out going on this walk, or, oh, that churro really smelled amazing. And like the churro reminded me of this time when we went to Mexico and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm making that up right now, but you see what I mean? Like, that's another exercise to get you out of your head. And then the final thing, and this is something that Sam from All the Good Stuff also brought up, is it's okay to repeat yourself. Okay. I think that this can be a cause of a lot of posters block as well, is us feeling like we are just boring because we're saying the same thing over and over and over, or talking about the same topic over and over and over, or are introducing ourselves over and over and over. But really, like if you do an introduction post once a month, wonderful, because you have new people joining your following. Maybe people from last month didn't see your post from last month, so they're going to see it this month, Also, people just like to hear the same stories and relate to people again and again and again. The same thing can be said about topics for your business, right? For Feel Good Social, I talk a lot about brand vibe. I talk a lot about content creation. I talk a lot about batching content and all this different stuff. Like content marketing is the theme of my business. And I talk about content marketing again and again and again. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I have lots of episodes in the past already talking about mapping out your month and batching your content, right? So I was like, go back and listen to those episodes because I already talked about it. And I have many more in the future that are going to be talking about the same stuff. But that's okay, because it's okay to repeat yourself. You're not boring. People have to hear, read, see something 7 to 10 times in order to finally pay attention to it, allow the message to sink into them, and then take action on that, right? So it is okay to repeat yourself. In fact, it's more strategic that way. In fact, your brand will be more memorable that way. So don't worry about being boring or saying things again and again and again. You are not that way. And that's just kind of a self-limitation that allows you to feel stuck because you're always feeling like you need to generate new ideas, and that does not need to happen, right? So, my friend, that is like kind of the breakdown for how I overcome poster's block, no matter what kind of poster's block I'm having, right? So I really want to encourage you to, next time you're feeling stuck, come back to this episode and just think to myself, what is causing me to feel stuck right now, right? Like, am I feeling like I don't have enough ideas? Like I don't have any idea for what to create a post about? Or do I feel limited by my ideas? Do I not feel excited by what I think I need to create a post about, right? Like understand firstly what is causing my poster's block, and then come back to this episode and be like, okay, Kins, what can I do about this? Because I did give like several options, I think, no matter what type of poster's block you're creating or you're struggling with, right? So I hope that this was super, super helpful, my friend. And if it was, I would absolutely love for you to share it with a friend who needs to hear it as well, because we all struggle with poster's block, myself included, right? So you got to have a biz buddy out there who also struggles with this and could use this episode to help them overcome poster's block in the future. And also, if you enjoyed it, please screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram stories, and make sure that you tag me at Feel Good Social, because I would love to see it. I would love to reshare it, and I would love to give you a follow and just connect with you and spread some love right back to you, my friend, because I'd want to do that, and I'm here for it. All right. If you have any questions at all about poster's block or anything like that, definitely hit me up on Instagram in the DMs. Or if you're interested in joining the Feel Good Social Club, it's feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we host monthly content planning workshops. We have a Canva template library. We have a post prompt library. We have community forums where members can help you brainstorm ideas on your content, give you feedback on your content. In that same post that I was talking about for this entire episode, Shaylee actually posted her caption. Well, firstly, she posted the photo that she wanted to create a post around, and then we all weighed in and gave her ideas. Oh, you could write a post about this. Oh, you could write a post about that. We generated 10 ideas out of this one photo that she shared. Then she actually wrote up the caption and she posted her caption in there, and we gave her feedback on her caption as well, which is something that I love to do. But also other Feel Good Social members just contribute so much to each other's content as well. So it's so fun. So if you're interested in joining the Feel Good Social Club, head to feelgoodsocial.com/club. I would love to see you in there, my friend. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.